Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. And sorry, I'm used to starting at 10:15. Welcome to our second hybrid worship service with people present in worship hall and others taking part from their homes or wherever they may be via our live streamed service. We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is the responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. With current COVID restrictions, we are bringing you Sunday services again from home. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this time. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. Following our service at 11:30 a.m., please join us as well for a special version of our traditional hospitality hour. You'll find the Zoom link on our website at www.firstunitarian.ca or in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU. We now have a few announcements from the board. Our president, Lisa Sharp, will give those announcements.
Good morning, everyone. So nice to see everybody. I've got a few quick announcements here. First of all, our music director, Jennifer, is looking for people who would be willing to sing hymns in the service or play instruments if you play a musical instrument. And you don't have to be in the choir to do this. So if you're out there and you're interested in performing in our Sunday services, please contact her. Also today at 1 p.m. on our campus, we are doing a tree giveaway along with our partner Ecology Ottawa. And at the same time, there will be free tours of our wonderful Ajashki garden. So if you haven't seen it yet, come and check it out. Our Truth and Reconciliation Action Group is inviting everyone to attend Parliament Hill this Thursday, September 30th, to show our respect for the National Day of Remembrance. We will be meeting at 10 a.m. at the Centennial Flame and again at noon to join the Spirit Walk to Confederation Park. Next Saturday, October 2nd, our Denominational Affairs Committee is hosting a special town hall where we will discuss the proposed 8th principle, which focuses on dismantling racism. Our morning presentation will start at 10 a.m. It's on Zoom and includes materials from the Canadian Unitarian Council. As well, there will be an opportunity for small group discussions so you can share your thoughts. After a lunch break, the afternoon session starts at 1 p.m., and it will include some of our members sharing their experiences with us, and there will be an open mic for people to share their thoughts with each other. We are going to use everyone's comments to send our feedback to the CUC by the October 20th deadline. And then finally, speaking of the CUC, they are offering a wonderful training program called Serving with Spirit. It happens to be falling on the same day as our town hall that we're doing, but we do think people need to go to this if possible, because it's a great cross-Canada event. Because it's running across Canada, it actually starts from 11:30 in the morning until 7:30 at night. And there are workshops like on family ministry, governance, climate justice, among many others. I had the privilege of attending this program several years ago, and it was fantastic. So I highly recommend that people go to it. Today is the registration deadline, so please, if you're interested, check in the EUU or on the CUC website if you're interested. That's it for today. Thank you.
During the continuing responses to COVID, we encourage you to sign up to receive the EUU, our weekly email newsletter, to check our Facebook page and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar is as full as ever, albeit much of it online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever you love, and however you identify, today you are a part of our spiritual community.
Bonjour, mes amis. Good morning, one and all. I am the new minister here, Reverend Eric Meter, and I took my mask off because our COVID task force has recommended that speakers at the podium don't really need the mask. You are far enough away, I think we are safe. Our singers will remain masked, however. Good morning, one and all. The Michaels are free once more, and we are here gathered on this spectacularly clear, cool, early autumn morning. Today we light our chalice to these words by Abigail Echo Hawk. When they buried the children, what they didn't know was that they were lovingly embraced by the land. Held and cradled in a mother's heart, the trees wept for them with the wind. They sang mourning songs their mothers didn't know to sing. Bending branches to touch the earth around them, the Creator cried for them, the tears falling like rain. Mother Earth held them until they could be found. Now our voices sing the morning songs with the trees, the wind, the sacred fire. Ensure that they are never forgotten as we sing the song of justice. Our chalice is lit, and now we have a song for you before our story for this morning.
Hi to everyone, it's Nao, your Director of Religious Exploration. I hope everyone's doing really well on this Sunday. Today I'm sharing with you the story, Phyllis' Orange Shirt, written by Phyllis Webstand. Little Phyllis lived with her granny on Dog Creek Reserve. They would pick berries, garden, and catch fish to preserve. There were not many kids with whom Phyllis could play because they went to residential school far, far away. One day, Granny took Phyllis to town. It was exciting to see so many people around. Granny took Phyllis to a shop full of clothes with hats for your head and socks for your toes. Phyllis picked out a shirt that was so orange, shiny and bright, and Granny bought it for her to wear with delight. On the first day of residential school, Phyllis just couldn't wait. She wore her orange shirt so that she would look great. But when she arrived, her mood started to change. The place was so cold, unfriendly, and strange. Her orange shirt was taken away, and she worried about how long she would have to stay. At public school, she was taught how to read and write neatly by her teacher, who treated her very sweetly. Phyllis liked her teacher, but she missed her granny so bad, along with the garden and home that she had. And then, when finally summer arrived, Phyllis returned to the home where she thrived. We wear our orange shirts to remember that every child matters, not just in September. We honor First Nations people and reflect on how every child is special and deserves our respect. Wishing everyone a great Sunday. Please check the EUU for updates about religious exploration.
For more on the story behind Orange Shirt Day, we have words from Phyllis Webstad. I went to the mission for 1 year. I had just turned 6 years old. We never had very much money, and there was no welfare, but somehow my granny managed to buy me a new outfit to go to the mission school in. I remember going to Robinson's store and picking out a shiny orange shirt. It had eyelets and lace, and I felt so pretty in that shirt and excited to be going to school. Of course, when I got to the mission, they stripped me and took away my clothes, including the orange shirt. I never saw it again, except on other kids. I didn't understand why they wouldn't give it back to me. It was mine. Since then, the color orange has always reminded me of that, and how my feelings didn't matter, how no one cared, and how I felt like I was worth nothing. I finally get it, that the feeling of worthlessness and insignificance ingrained in me from my first day at the mission affected the way I lived my life for many years. I want my orange shirt back. It's the end of the quote. This orange shirt taken from one child is a symbol of the many losses experienced by thousands of students and their families and communities over several generations, including loss of family, language, culture, freedom, parenting, self-esteem and worth, and painful experiences of abuse and neglect. Wearing orange shirts are a symbol of defiance against those things that undermine children's self-esteem and of our commitment to anti-racism and anti-bullying in general. The date was chosen because it is the time of year that children were taken from their homes to residential schools, and because it is an opportunity to set the stage for anti-racism and anti-bullying policies for the coming school year. Orange Shirt Day is also an opportunity for First Nations, local governments, schools, and communities to come together in the spirit of reconciliation and hope for generations of children to come. Wearing an orange shirt and promoting the slogan, "Every Child Matters," is an affirmation of our commitment to raise awareness of the residential school experience and to ensure that every child matters as we focus on hope for a better future in which children are empowered to help each other. Let's not forget the children, but honor them on September 30th.
My name is Reverend Ellen Bell. I am the spiritual care visitor for this congregation. At this time in the service, we allow people to express their personal joys and sorrows. We do this by placing stones in water and allowing the ripples to carry those joys or sorrows out to the universe so that people may commiserate or congratulate. I'll start off with two very special stones of joy today for our two Michaels who have returned after almost 3 years in a Chinese prison, Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. Another stone for the day, National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, which takes place on this coming Thursday, September the 30th. A stone of well wishes for Ted. And one last stone for all those joys and sorrows that we hold in our hearts. We will now have a moment of silence.
I am now happy to introduce our guest speaker, Arlene Roberts. Arlene is a member of the Nisga'a Nation, and she holds a diploma from the Master of Divinity Native Consortium program at the University of British Columbia. She has worked for the Indian Residential School Survivor Society, the IRSSS, for a number of years as the Northwest BC Regional Resolution Health Support Worker, providing and developing workshops and programs for colleges, universities, schools, and community program training. She also works with First Nations individuals and families on healing and self-reconciliation. Ms. Roberts asked that this song, He Can Fancy Dance, by Métis Cree singer-songwriter Cindy Paul, precede her remarks. Here is the song, followed by our speaker, Arlene Roberts.
The day the black crow came into his land, they said, we will teach your children right from wrong. And they took him from his mother's hand. He was gone. He could not fancy dance, he could not sing. He was told that it was a sin. But sometimes he'd fly out on the eagle's wing in his mind. Robbed of his spirit and his pride, he was told his people were undignified. He could not speak the language of his land. How could a man like that survive? Now he drinks whiskey and hangs out in bars. He says this fire water can do me no harm. Can't you see he lost his soul years ago? Fight again. Does this war ever really end? You know, all he wanted was to be your friend. He's losing the fight again. On a concrete corner all alone, he whispered, mighty spirit, can you take me home? Take me back to when I was a little child. he can sing.
Hi, I'm Arlene Roberts with the Indian Residential School Survivors Society Northwest Regional Office. The Indian Residential School Survivors Society has been going on for almost 27 years now, and our main office is located in Vancouver, BC. I'm in the Northwest region in Kitsim-Kamloops, Tsimshian Territory, and it's sometimes called Terrace, BC. I'd like to thank the Algonquin for allowing me to speak on their territory. And my Niska name, I'm from the Niska Nation, is Basak. I have 39 years of sobriety, and I am fourth generation survivor, and I have 6 grandchildren. So the Indian Residential School Survivors Society started 27 years ago, almost 27 years ago, by Dr. Chief Robert Joseph and Alvin Dixon. They went to the First Nations Summit, and that is one of the largest gatherings of our leadership. And they had requested that the leadership in BC assist them and support them to establish the Provincial Residential School Survivors Society. And the name changed over to the Indian Residential School Survivors Society most recently, about 10 years ago. And so these 2 survivors are the ones who established our Survivors Society to make a difference with survivors and their families, to support and work with them with the lawsuit that started, and the William Blackwater lawsuit against the United Church and the federal government for the Alberni residential school. So that started with 32 survivors, and one of them was a lady, Martha Joseph. She was the only female survivor in that lawsuit. And so the Indian Residential School Survivors Society has a website, www.irSSS.ca, and we have 37 staff and cultural workers and elder support workers, and we come together to assist with survivors and the next generation. And so our services include advocating and educating from elementary school to colleges, universities, police departments, government offices, and various churches and organizations throughout British Columbia. Most recently, when the 215 little babies were found at the Kamloops Residential School, we had a 24/7. We still have the 24/7 crisis hotline, but we initiated it to take calls from all over Turtle Island. And we got calls all the way from Texas and California and Washington and Ontario and Alberta and just all over, prisons, people, First Nations and non-First Nations calling in and just grieving with all of us over the remains that have been found at the residential schools. They're still doing the searches in different residential schools, over 130 residential schools across Canada. And it's over 6,000 remains so far that have been located in various residential school sites. And so we continue to walk beside our survivors in the healing, and the families whose children never came home, never made it home. What had happened was in the generations, 4, sometimes 5 generations, what had happened was the government had stopped any sort of people leaving the reserves, or any food or anything happening in the reserves if the reserves didn't give up their children. And if anybody was trying to stop any of the children going to residential school, they were sent to prison. So the devastation that had happened with our traditional leadership continued on through the generations, and the residential schools were operated by the federal government and the churches. The federal government had given money per child in each school. A lot of the teachers in the school system were not certified teachers. They were not there to educate. It was never about, residential schools were never about education. They were about money. And so the consequence is that if a room was made for, say, 6 children, they would be 20 children in the room. So being taken away from our families really was so incredibly devastating to our First Nations people. Some didn't make it home. Some of them ended up on the streets. Some of them just stayed where they were at and tried to make a home from there. Some of them worked so hard at being parents and grandparents, but having that gap because of residential school, having the gap of having your parents and your grandparents around to learn what parenting was all about, didn't happen. And so the consequences, what you see on the streets in downtown East Side, in the homeless shelters, and children. Some people call the Ministry of Family and Children, when they take the babies away, the new residential school. And so that is so important to advocate for the government, to the government leadership, to start having the organizations like the ministry and the police to start getting educated on what actually is needed for the healing for our residential school families. And so creating that space is so vitally important. And that's where our traditional healing tools and healing practices start coming into our world. When we create drums, we call it giving voice. When we create the drums, when we teach people to create drums, First Nations and non-First Nations, we also create that opportunity, that safe space to learn how to use your drums, to learn how to use your voice for singing and dancing for themselves, as well as for their children and their grandchildren, so that generational healing can come about. When we do our arts, and I call them arts, I don't call them crafts. When we do our beating, when we do making our drums, when we make our rattles, when we make our regalia, things that we wear when we're dancing, when we create those, that's the opportunity of talking. That's the opportunity of healing. That's when we start talking about our First Nations food sovereignty. When we need our First Nations food, what it gave to us to keep us healthy and to keep our next generations healthy. And we talk about what's happening within our homes, of what needs to be healed. Where does our sobriety? How do we start our sobriety? How do we start talking? And that's by creating the safe space. And that's what's so important in the schools, with the school district, where we also advocate getting the history of residential school in the school system, to get them start talking, to get the kids start talking, to understand, so it's not repeated again, so that lateral violence stops. And that we give words, we give this space, this opportunity within the school system, so our children and our grandchildren and those yet unborn can have that safe opportunity of understanding history and feelings, giving words to feelings. It's so important to be able to actually talk about how difficult it was in residential school. But with that trauma, with the generational trauma, some of the workshops that we teach on family mapping, that generational trauma is always there. But what's also always there is our generational healing. And that's something for First Nations and non-First Nations, is to give voice to that, the generational trauma, and saying, okay, what's next that we can do, so that we can have those talking circles, the safe talking circles, where people can just talk about their feelings, just talk about racism. When in some places where we talk about racism, then some people get insulted. And I always encourage people to watch Jane Elliott, her videos. You can get them on YouTube. Her videos are just incredible. They're just amazing when she talks about how racism has nothing to do with people of color. And that's something I'd like to encourage you to explore and to use some of Jane Elliott's teaching, and as well find out about the medical and the food and nutrition experiments that went on in residential schools with the E.M. Mosley research. His documents are incredible and amazing. Just so much resources out there, and you can find them on our website. You can find them on our Indian Residential School Survivors Society website, where we have the orange shirt, a lot of the orange shirt links and information. And that's something that with the orange shirt, it started with one survivor, Phyllis, who went to residential school, and before she went, her granny got her an orange shirt, and as soon as she got to residential school, that orange shirt was taken away from her. So she spent her lifetime grieving over the loss of that orange shirt and the memories of her granny. And so she brought that with her into her healing, into the healing circles, and then her support group helped her create the Orange Shirt Day, and it just started with one community, one group of people in Williams Lake, BC, and supporting her and helping her make that orange shirt special. And so then it went from just being in one community into the province, into Canada, and into North America, where Orange Shirt Day is just an incredible opportunity where we can say every child matters, and it becomes a way of life. And so it only took one person to do that. And that's what I'd like to encourage you guys each and every one of you, each individual. It only takes one person to have this idea and have that support each other in creating safe space for talking and for your healing, for creating the opportunity of wanting to drum and sing together, to learn how to be together as we walk together in healing. That's something that that we do every single day with our Survivor Society. That we support these issues, we support initiatives, we support families and children and grandchildren and those yet unborn. That we have this human right to care for each other, and in a very special way that Creator gave us these drums and these voices and these songs and our arts to stand beside each other, to walk beside each other, and just become one in healing, health, hope, and healing. And so the other ceremony that we do is a welcome home ceremony. And that's something that we never had as survivors, is to be welcomed home. Nobody ever came up and said, "Hey, welcome home from residential school. I'm glad you made it out alive." And so what we've done through the years is that we have ceremonies, and it's still happening all over North America, where we get blankets, we get robes, or we get scarves, and we put them on survivors, and we say, "Welcome home." We put them in a circle and have their families and their friends. And everybody has that opportunity to say welcome home to the survivor. And that's where the healing is. That's where the healing begins, to be acknowledged, to say, wow, you survived the atrocities of residential school, and we honor you. We honor this opportunity. We honor this this moment of giving our love and our caring and our understanding in the blanketing ceremony. And so I would like to encourage all of you to advocate in the schools, to advocate in the police department, in your cities, in the leadership of Canada, to continue to move forward with the truth and reconciliation, to continue to move forward with creating safe spaces and opportunities for our survivors and the families and the grandchildren and those yet unborn, that we can walk together as humans. I honor this opportunity to speak with each and every one of you, and just know that my prayers are with you, each one of you. And remember, it only takes one person to make a difference in healing. Oh, I've seen this. Thank you so much from my heart and from my soul for this opportunity. And God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
In our service that we usually accept the offering. Today, we invite you to donate to the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. For those in person here, you'll find baskets behind the pews. For anyone, whether online or in person, you can make a donation by mail or dropping in our mailbox a check made out to FirstU Ottawa, but in the memo section, please specify IRSSS. You can also call our finance manager and HR manager, Michelle Jackson, and give her your credit card information. You can also send an e-transfer to FM, like finance manager, at firstunitarianottawa.ca and indicate it is for the IRSSS. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another.
Jen, Chris, thank you. The orange shirts that many of us have donned this morning are a vital and important symbol, but they are beginning, not an end. Our attention will be given to this in days and Sundays to come as well. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We extinguish our chalice this morning to this Micmac prayer. Creator, open our hearts to peace and healing beyond all people. Creator, open our hearts to provide and protect for all children of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to respect for the earth and all the gifts of the earth. Creator, open our hearts to end exclusion, violence, and fear among all. Thank you for the gifts of this and every day. This morning's chalice is extinguished, and our connections and our faith remain. Our closing song.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Coule dans mes mains, vie d'espoir et de justice. Dis-moi, ciel, emporte-moi, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
Our hospitality hour will begin at 11:30. The link to that was in your EUU that came out late this week. Go in peace, go in love, go always towards justice, go in joy, and may soon all be well. May all be well. Amen. Blessed be.
Your life is your life. Don't let it be clubbed into dank submission. Be on the watch. There are ways out. There is light somewhere. It may not be much light, but it beats the darkness. Be on the watch. The aunties will offer you chances. Know them. Take them. You can't beat death, but you can beat death in life sometimes. And the more often you learn to do it, the more light there will be. Your life